It's crazy how the universe works. It's crazy like when you learn a lesson and then it comes up somewhere else. Welcome back to this week's episode with me, Rebecca Louise, on the It Takes Grit podcast. Oh yes, we are in Namche right now in Nepal, getting this podcast filmed for you because we are going to be talking about letting go to get your energy back. And I wanted to recap my first, I think I've been here almost 72 hours in Nepal, and just give a little bit of a story of what's been going on. Some of you might have seen that my Instagram post, I shared a story of learning a lesson in my very, very first day here, and something that I was able to put in practice from something that happened a week before. So I'm going to dive into a little bit of that, give you an update on where everything is at, how I'm feeling, but most importantly, just share a little bit on like how to let go so that you can move on quicker, so that the things that you want to do in your life aren't, clouded by something. And I'm so proud of myself for some of the steps that I took on this very first day. It was very outside of my comfort zone. It wasn't anything physical. It wasn't anything mental. It was a fear of mine of not being direct and, coming across in a way that was going to hurt somebody or upset somebody. And so I'm really excited to share these lessons that I'm already learning with you. And this is what the podcast is all about. It's called It Takes Grit. It's called It Takes Grit for a reason, because it does take grit to get out of that victim mentality. It does take grit to, climb Everest, do a 5K. It does take grit to, take responsibility for something that someone said and own it and learn from that lesson and move on. So I'll give you a quick little recap of where I am right now. I'm in a lodge in Namche, Nepal. We have been here for one night already. This is our second night. And we had a 31-hour journey door to door to get from Sarasota, Florida, all the way through to Kathmandu. Nepal, we had one night in Kathmandu, and when we arrived at like 9 a.m. in the morning. It took about 90 minutes to get through immigration. It's just a little bit crazy, chaotic, because you need some paperwork, then you have to go in one line. We went in the other line. We didn't have the right cash with us, so that just took a little bit longer than expected. We got picked up at the airport and then taken to a really great hotel where my dad in Kenton was there, and my videographer too, and his support team. And that day we had like a meeting with everybody, first of all, just to kind of like get everybody to know like who everybody is. And then we went out for lunch, actually in the hotel. Luke and I just had lunch. And then we wanted to stay awake, because the biggest thing with jet lag is like if you have a nap, you kind of just mess everything up. And the time zones from where we are is completely like flip-flopped. So literally it is, it's morning time in Sarasota as we're going to bed in Florida. And then we went upstairs to our room, kind of got ourselves like sorted. We spoke with my videographer about like what kind of content we want to create, like what's the flow. And, it was interesting because, there were some other people kind of coming on the trip with us, and this is just a trip for me. And so this has been going on for like 3 years. This has been in the making. And then we went out for dinner. We went around to this beautiful, temple. We went in a taxi that was just like one of the craziest taxi rides like of my life. It was just chaotic. It's, there's busyness all over, there's mopeds everywhere. And we got to dinner. We walked around this beautiful temple. We lit some candles. And, my expectation of this trip, it was, connecting with Luke, connecting with my dad, connecting with Kenton, and connecting with my videographer and the Sherpa team and the climbing team and the porters and all of that. And, there was a little bit of a misunderstanding about like some other people that are coming on this trip as well. And I was like, oh, like, do I say anything? Like, maybe it's meant to be like this, like, and I was like, no, like this trip has cost me, a decent amount of money, a good amount of money. And, this was something that I wanted. This wasn't what this was about. And so I just don't like confrontation. And I was like, you know what? I have to say something. And this is where it's crazy how the universe works. It's crazy like when you learn a lesson and then it comes up somewhere else. Because the week before, it was a Saturday morning, and I got a message from somebody that I've paid to help me with, part of my business. And I got a message from them. And it's very interesting. And this is me being like, I like, this is probably why I'm stumbling so much in this podcast, because I don't even want to say it because it hurts, but I want to be as open as and transparent as I can. And, I had done probably 200 more hours on a project that was supposed to be done for me. And I'd stepped in and I paid this person a lot of money, and I stepped in and, did a lot of the work myself and found errors and spelling mistakes and things that weren't set up properly, and just didn't feel very cared for as a client. And it's interesting because I've been called this word like one time before, and only by a male and only in business. And I was called passive aggressive. And I can understand how I came across as passive aggressive, because I might look like a cute little blonde person who's into fitness, but when you really get to know me, I am smart. And I know exactly how every part of my business works. I understand the coding. I understand APIs. I understand what connects where. You can't get shit past me. And so I was coming across, and it wasn't everybody in the team that found me passive aggressive. I think it was one person in particular, because I was questioning what they were doing, like what their part was. And as a female, if you are questioning, you're coming across as passive aggressive. However, if you are direct and you call it as it is, you can come across as a bitch. And so I was trying in my head to give them the benefit of the doubt to understand. So I can see from their point of view how it might have come across passive aggressive, in saying like, because I was basically questioning their authority, which is what passive aggressive is. I was, because I didn't believe what they were doing was correct. I didn't know, I knew they were kind of trying to pull like the fast one on me. I didn't trust them. And I was called this once before, about 9 months ago, by some other men that I went into partnership with. And I was also questioning what they were doing. And I was questioning it, and I was correct. And like, luckily I broke out of that partnership. I mean, we went into partnership. I was giving them equity of my company, and they weren't even on the first Zoom call. They ordered products from my merchandise products from China, my normal typical merchant, my suppliers, but they didn't get the shipping included, which meant that we paid for the stuff and they could charge you any amount they wanted to ship it because you've already gone in. Now, those are the types of things that I was questioning them. I said, why have you not paid for the shipping yet? Instead of just saying, hey, you need to pay for the shipping, because I was asking them because I wanted to figure out if they knew the answer. And I think that can come across passive aggressive. And I also think that, how do you ever expect to figure out if the people that you're working with are what they say they are? Because a lot of times in business, as a female, they think that they're smarter than you. They think that you don't even know anything. But if you really know, I built my whole business bootstrapped, and I ask questions. The reason I know how to connect my emails to ClickFunnels, or how I know how to do this, is because every single step along the way over the last 10 years, I have asked questions, and I've said, send me a video of how you did that. Send me a video. How does this work? How does this connect here? And I've just asked questions. And so I do know a lot more than maybe the average person who's putting something together. And that's not me being like, woo, look at Rebecca. It's me just been like, that's how I've been able to figure out a lot of the stuff. Anyway, this Saturday morning, I wake up and I've put in hours and hours. Like I was putting in more hours to this project than getting on the treadmill and doing my Everest training. I was doing more of that than I was like eating the foods that I needed to eat, because I was like, I paid so much to get this thing launched. Like I had to get it launched. And they call me passive aggressive in front of the whole team, which, one, a leader does not do that. A leader just calls up the person individually. I'm the client. That's the crazy thing. I'd never treat a client like that, like calling them out in front of everybody. Like, to me, that's like clueless, bad leadership. And anyway, they said, you're being passive aggressive and you're not doing what you preach. And it hit me, and I was like, wow, do not practice what I preach. I was like, I honor myself on that. And I was like, well, isn't this interesting? What can I take back from this? How can I reflect? How can I get better? And how can I take this on? So even though I was called out by the person I'm spending ridiculous, stupid amount of money with, in front of the whole team, I just said, all right, no problem. Well, this is the second time that's happened. Maybe I've got a lesson to learn here. Maybe I'm being passive aggressive. And I just thought, wow, this gave me permission. Gave me permission to be direct. And I was like, Rebecca, this is great. This is amazing. Like, thank you to these two people calling me passive aggressive, because now my conversations is, I don't think that what you're doing is in the best interest of me. I think that you're trying to manipulate the situation, and I'm just going to be honest. And now they've given me permission to be direct, because otherwise, if I'm not direct, I'm called passive aggressive. And so I literally replied back. I said, I am so sorry if I've ever come across passive aggressive to anybody in this team. That's not my intention. I am what I preach. And, you know, as a female, you either come across passive aggressive by asking questions, which is better in my opinion, because you're not assuming, or you can come across very direct and a bitch. And so I owned it. I said, but you know what? I really appreciate this feedback. Thank you so much. And it was interesting because there's probably about, I'd say 6 people that work in this project that we're putting together. And I called up one, I said, I'm just so sorry. And I was in tears. And they called me back and they were like, Rebecca, like, you've been one of the best people to work with. You've just been an absolute delight. I've not found you passive aggressive at all. And so, you know, I just owned it. I mean, and I let it go. I said, I can either be mad at this person for calling me passive aggressive, be mad at them for like their opinion on me, which is going to cause resentment, which is going to cause stress. Or I'm like, how can I just make this into a positive? I mean, I am doing what I preach. If I was not doing what I preached, you know, and it's interesting because, you know, I don't feel like this guy, you know, does what he preaches, but that's okay. Like that's his, you know, relationship with himself. So it was just really interesting. And then I was like, okay, great. This is my lesson. My lesson is to apologize, say I'm so sorry, but like I'm going to work on becoming more direct so don't come across like passive aggressive. And I've never been called passive aggressive in my life by any friends, any family, anyone. I normally like am direct, but when it comes to business, I want to figure out if these people I'm going into business with know their shit or they don't. So I do question. But now I'm just going to ask them like straight out, because I guess like that's the best way to be. But that's going to be subjective as to along the way. And so the reason that I wanted to share that story was because I let it go. Like, I didn't let them ruin my day. I just apologized. I took responsibility, which is exactly what I talk about in the 5-day break free challenge. Like, that's legitly like what I say is like, don't get your energy and get your time back by just taking responsibility, learning from it, and then just moving on. And so I learned that lesson of being more direct. And so on the first day, when I had a situation which I didn't, you know, think that the other people should be part of this trip, I flat out said, I'm uncomfortable with it. It's not what I signed up for. I paid a lot of money for this, for it to be a one-on-one experience. And this is not what I signed up for. It's going to affect the video. It's going to affect the dynamics between, you know, my videographer, my guide, my dad, Luke. Like, it's important to me to, you know, create, not even create, because we're not even creating a story, just like to document the journey, but the relationships that happen between the people. That's really important to me. And it's going to be really hard if there's 2 other people that doesn't quite like fit the mold of the dynamic of the group and what we're trying to create. And also waivers and all the other stuff. And, you know, there's a lot more logistics. And so I just said it. And I mean, I was shaking because I don't like confrontation. You know, there's been a few times like, you know, that I've like seen something or, you know, heard something and like, you know, from whatever it is, and my whole body just goes like hot and like in this, you know, crazy feeling. And I said something and they were like, yeah, you know, we'll sort that out. And then I didn't think it quite got through. So I said something again. And I said, you know, if you'd asked me this, the answer would have been no. If you did ask me if this was okay, I would have said no. And I was so proud of myself. Anyway, got back in the elevator, went back to the room, was with Luke. And I'd also had a few conversations with the project that I'm doing too. And I was, you know, I felt a little bit of resentment again from that other person and whatever. It was just like a lot. And I'm like here for the first day in like Everest. And I literally broke down. And I couldn't like, it's the best way that I could describe it is what it would feel like to just before you have a panic attack. And I know that a panic attack, you know, I know that you just need to breathe it out. Like we get ourselves into that state, because I've had a panic attack before, but it's not, I want to say like it's in your head, but to get it out of your body, you have to go into like your heart and start breathing. And so I'm literally on the bed and I just have my hand on my stomach, and I'm like, something just felt cloudy. It felt weird. I needed to lie down, and it was it was just stress. My body was feeling stress. I'm scared about Everest. I'm worried. I'm now, I don't know, have I like upset other people? And it was just like all these things. And then the lesson that I learned, I was able to use, and I was proud of that moment. And I just like floods of tears were just like coming out of my face. And Luke was there, and he's like, what do you need? I was like, he's trying to cuddle me. I'm just like, no, like I need like space right now. And I'm just breathing. And within like 10 minutes, like it had calmed down. And then I just needed to like shut off. I put on some suits and watched some, and then just watch like 10 minutes of a show, and then I just like needed to go to sleep. And I wrote that post about like how I felt that I put up on my Instagram, and I had to let it, like the next day it's about letting go, right? So, and that's what I'm trying to use these examples to express how I let it go and how you can let it go. Because that Saturday morning I was in tears, I let it go, and then I did 11 hours straight. I had an hour for lunch and 11 hours straight. I only got up to pee. I was on my sofa the whole time working with Alfie underneath me. It's how we work. Oh, sorry, I got like some dirt or something in my eye. And then I just kept on working, and I got on with it, and I let it go, and I took responsibility. It was great. And then, on that first day when we got here, it was like, okay. And then I woke up the next morning. I was like, great. Like, what an exciting lesson that I got to learn. Everything was fine. It was smoothed over. There was no resentment. There was no like, like bad negative feelings between like anybody. It went great. And so I think that when we can learn how to let go faster and take responsibility quicker, we get our time, we get our energy back, we move, we grow quicker, we evolve. If you never take responsibility for anything that you've done, you're never going to grow, you're never going to evolve. And always think about, what's the lesson here? What's this person, saying about me? What can I learn from it? And then you get to decide like if it's true or not. And I just feel like when you come to a place where you're like, wow, let me just be open, like be open and aware of like my behavior and how I am towards other people, that's where we can become like a better version of ourselves. So I hope that me being, you can feel like I'm like, I didn't know how much I was going to say, or if I even wanted to say it, or if I didn't want to talk about the passive aggressive thing. Like the whole thing is, it's uncomfortable. No one wants to be called something nasty, but I think it's best to just address it and just be open. I've tried my best to be open, and as vulnerable and honest with you guys as I can. So thank you so much for giving me that space. But I just hope this, as you listen to this, you realize like nothing matters, the next day that you wake up, nothing matters from the day before. Let it go, move on, enjoy your day. I don't want anything to be ruining my experience of Everest. So it's like, how can I get things go quicker so that I get to enjoy, that next moment. So I hope that helps. And that was the story of kind of, going from, being called like passive aggressive and called out in front of a whole group of people, and that you don't practice what you preach, and just going, okay, well, that's not true. But yeah, I can see how the passive aggressive part can come in, and I'm going to learn from that. But I'm here. This is going to be the third night that we are here in Nepal. And it's been really nice so far. Just get a little bit of walking in. We're going to the next stop next. And I know it's going to get a lot more challenging. And I'm not sure how much signal I'll have to be able to do this kind of stuff. But we will get there. And I just really appreciate the journey. My Instagram and TikTok are going crazy and blowing up. So thank you so much for all the love and support there. I'm doing my best to really bring you on the journey. My videographer is incredible. He's going to be right here as we go up the mountain. Like the last like couple of steps, so you're going to really get to see some close-up stuff too. So if you're not already signed up, of course, for the Breakthrough Challenge, what are you doing? It's amazing. We have like 1,000 people in the group right now, and the energy in there is electric. So if you're really serious about doing some of the things that I speak about in this podcast, the most important thing is to actually join a challenge so that you can immerse yourself in something that's going to make a shift in your life. Because this will be great, but you're not going to make a shift. You're not going to make a change. You need to go through a process. And the 5 days is set up perfectly to help you go through that process to break free, get unstuck, and reach your goals. So thank you so much for tuning in today on the It Takes Grit podcast. Working on getting some better lighting and sound if you're watching on YouTube. But I was just glad that I was able to get this video out to you. Love you guys so much, and have a great rest of your day.